Asymmetry. And I have my mentor, should I call it a mentor, Mr. Momodu Mboy. Yes.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here, Ibrahim. Can you imagine my first time, co-hosting with you? Normally I'm a guest, aren't I? So today I'm on the other side of the fence.
Well, this is going to be very interesting today, and I'm surrounded by both of my bosses here. And Mr. Ade, welcome. He's always here. He's not a new face on this morning.
I seem to
and we are glad to have you here always.
I seem to be ever present on this morning. It's a pleasure to be here.
Very comfortable. And of course, today on the program, we'll be having the African proverb, and of course, we'll be looking at the newspapers, the newspaper review. And of course, we'll also have update on Community Watch, update on route licensing in the Gambia. We'll be having Omar Sisay, President of the Gambia Transport Union, and Mr. Kasama, Ministry of Transport. Mr. Sisay was here yesterday, and we discussed a whole lot of stuff when it comes to road accidents, and of course insurance companies and their policies in the Gambia. And today we'll be looking at a different angle, and well, we'll be taking a look at the African proverb. I mean, it's very interesting when we come to this part, Mr. Mboy. And it reads, if you think you are too small to make a difference, you haven't spent a night with a mosquito.
I think everybody can relate to that one.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
And I guess what it is saying is never underestimate your own capabilities. There are lots and lots of times you hear people saying, what can I do? I can't make a difference. Well, imagine in an election just gone, imagine 150 people saying, what can I do? I can't make a difference. And they stay home and they don't go and vote. And then the candidate that they wanted to win loses by 150 votes. Because everybody, they didn't discuss it with each other, but everybody's independently thinking, I can't make a difference. But actually, no matter how small, you can make a difference. There are times when people have lost by 1 vote. In 2011, the president of Cape Verde lost by 11 votes. 11 votes.
11 votes.
11.
And just look at that margin. I mean,
and in fact, historically, it's the smallest margin ever by which somebody has lost a presidential election. And even more remarkably, he didn't even ask for a recount. He said, we're a small country. I'm sure they didn't make a mistake. And he stood down. But, I mean, the point is, this proverb says it, that no matter how small your contribution, it actually could end up being quite significant. And as we know from mosquitoes, they're small, but oh boy,
yes, definitely.
Do they
are
bother?
Small, but I mean very hot. Mr. Boyd, what do you mean?
Absolutely. I was just thinking that perhaps countries that have eradicated sort of malaria, they don't have many mosquitoes, perhaps they might need to think about it a bit. But with us, absolutely.
Yeah.
And perhaps we can even use it as a metaphor for something else. I mean, look at our country, how small we are.
Yeah.
But you can make a difference. You are never too small. In many ways, it doesn't matter what you do.
Yes.
You're just never too small. So I think that often we are defeated by our own defeatist thinking.
Yeah, quite. I mean, we talk about things like the Banjul, convention and things like that. You'd think that kind of thing to do with human rights and so on would have been done by Nigeria, Ghana, one of the big boys. And no, the convention takes its name from the fact that it was here in the Gambia.
Absolutely, extraordinary.
So yeah.
It's telling us you are never too small to make a difference.
I think so.
It's very important. I'll relate this to, there was an interview. The former Minister of Agriculture granted the interview to one media house, and the media house was like, well, your party is not very famous anymore, and you cannot make a difference. You have to rely on, NPP so that you can, at least people can see you. Right. So he said to the journalist, I mean, let's take a good example. If a well is 25 meters deep, I mean, this man, Mr. Mboj, you have a rope of 10 meters. Mr. Ade, 10 meters. If you put them together, you still cannot get to the water. So if I have my 5 meters, no matter how short my rope is, my 5 meter contributes to you getting that water. Absolutely. So I said that's a very appropriate answer.
It really is. Yes. It really is. So every little bit does count, and that's a brilliant answer. That's
exactly.
A brilliant answer.
Yes, thank you very much. And we'll take a short break. After the break, then we'll go straight to the newspaper review and get ready to learn a lot. I mean, because we'll be, Mr. Mboj and Mr. Ade will be taking us through the whole newspapers today. We'll be right back.
We will indeed.
QCell's Q Prayer and Q Ramadan service reminds you of your 5 daily prayer times and the start and end times for your fast. Simply send prayer to 331 to be reminded of the 5 daily prayer times. Send Ramadan or fast to 332 to be notified of the start and iftar time of fasting on a daily basis. QCell wishes you all a blessed Ramadan. We innovate, others follow.
Welcome back. You are watching QTV this morning. I am Ibrahim Abalde, and we'll go straight to the newspaper review. And Mr. Mboj, we have the point. Very interesting headlines. Like most of the headlines are identical.
And interesting. So take it away, Mr. Mboj. What do you got?
This is the point newspaper on the front page. The first item there. Traffic accidents. GTU, that's the Gambia Transport Union, calls on GPF, the Gambia Police Force, not to enforce insurance on roads. I mean, I was puzzling over that. What is that? But we're going to have him later on, aren't we? So
yes.
we will ask him.
Right.
I'll just ignore that.
That's
So the main splash, really, on the front page is parliamentary business commences as Sidinjai heads Defence Committee.
Yeah, an interesting one.
Interesting one there. And right at the bottom, audit report. Government awards over $74 million to contracts to companies unapproved by GPPA. Finance Minister Njai addresses B20 ministerial dialogue, and Justice Ministry welcomes BLO's trial, I think, bylaws trial. But these things, these typos do occur.
Yes, quite.
Exactly, okay.
And what do you have?
This is the Foroya. 65 years old nurse assistant alleges verbal sacking after 37 years of service. Parents worry about their children's education as Fonyi Border Village school remains closed. High Court judge refuses a lawyer's request to release alleged murderer. Alleged ex-member of Jammeh's former special hit unit tried in Germany. And of course, Transport Union President urges government to review Motor Traffic Insurance Act to address traffic accidents. Government refutes allegations of assigning portions of pristine land to U.S. Embassy, Banjul, and the editorial under certainty on the way forward in Ukraine. Uncertainty, rather, on the way forward in Ukraine. Yes, that's what we have on the Fourier.
You're just trying to upset me by saying uncertainty, aren't you? It's uncertainty.
Uncertainty.
Stop it. And then Germany opens, the voice I have here, Germany opens trial of Gambia death squad suspect by law. And interestingly, when he appeared in court, he covered up his face for some reason. I'm not sure why. They should have just snatched it from him. Ex-finance minister directs $669 million question to president office. I think they mean the president's office. Road accidents claim over 40 lives within 1 month. That's from Lamin Sarr. And Army Border Patrol in Fonyi welcomed. And then on the bottom there, Sidi Njai appears again. And it says, Sidi Njai is a security threat, says Honorable Yaya Sanyang. And then in the bottom right corner, APRC spokesman, as in Dudu Jah, urges Barrow to fight corruption. There you have it.
Okay, interesting. Let's keep the ball rolling.
Sure.
Let's start with Bylow's case. I mean, he's tried in Germany.
Sure.
I mean, I don't think you've seen that coming. I mean, if you know you will be tried anywhere, I mean, you can be apprehended even if you run. Why running?
Well, this is it. And not only that, Mr. Mboj and I discussed this on the Weekend Review. Not only can you be apprehended anywhere, but as the special law that they're using to prosecute him in Germany, your victims don't have to be German. The crime does not have to have been committed in Germany. It could have been committed anywhere in the world. And if you are in Germany, they can arrest you and they can try you. And that's exactly what is happening to him.
That's right. And a similar thing sort of was happening in the U.S. Michael Correa.
Yeah.
I'm not sure whether they've
that's right. It seems to have been dragging his feet, that one.
But they're invoking really the same principle of universal jurisdiction.
That's right.
Likewise with Sonko.
That's right.
In Switzerland.
Indeed, yes.
So that sort of thing, it appears that around the world now,
there's
there is no hiding place.
There's no hiding place.
Well, it's serious. I've also seen the present, like people like Baba Haidara, the son of the late Deda Haidara, and Fatoumata Sanding, daughter of late Solo Sanding, were also present at the court.
That's right. So they are expecting to actually hear some of the people who spoke at the TRRC, because obviously their evidence is going to be crucial for this. In fact, really the case cannot proceed without that kind of evidence. And so we expect that these people will give testimony, will give and be cross-examined. I'm sure they're up to it.
You've mentioned something before we come on air. I mean, you said he was covering his face. I don't know. I mean, why was he covering his face?
I don't know whether you can pick out this image here.
Why was he covering his face? I mean,
you know, well, in Germany, they have this convention whereby if somebody is charged, they never mention your name fully. And so if it was you, there would be Ibrahima B. But, you know, there he is, he's covering his face. Seems rather a waste of time. I think everybody knows who it is, even though they keep saying by L. So all the so when they had a kind of pre-trial Zoom meeting for people, Reed Brody, who was leading it, kept stopping himself from saying by low, it's a by L, you know, because everybody knows who it is. But you know, German law doesn't allow the media to quote, and also in the courts throughout the proceedings, he will only be addressed as by L, not by low.
Absolutely. When I saw it, I thought, after the horses have bolted.
I mean, in England, they've always criticized this, because if you say Ibrahima B, it could be anybody. But if they say your name fully, somebody else might say, oh, I know him, he's committed another crime. But if all you have is an initial of the surname, then you don't know who that person is. So the British have never understood why the Germans have kind of stuck to this, because of course they're going on the innocent until proven guilty value. But I saw a particular case which involved a Gambian in Austria. It's quite a horrific one. He supposedly killed his girlfriend. And even after he was convicted, they did not give his surname. So Austria and Germany obviously have the same sort of rules about that. But for Bailo, I think everybody will be watching this with interest, because he could be the first of many, and the others who have absconded and thought they have escaped justice will be trembling now, and they'll be watching this case with interest. And so, you know, one can't presume that he's guilty already, but we watch the case. And
I hope these laws are going to apply to other countries as well. I mean, where you have some of the perpetrators running and hiding in those countries. I hope it's going to be the same law.
Well, you know, I did say when I was discussing this with Mr. Mboj, imagine if the perpetrator was an American, would the Germans have arrested that person? I suspect not, because the whole American government would come down to defend even a murderer, really. And so, because that person was an American citizen. So you'll find that most of the people who are going to be arrested and tried in this will be Africans. I'm not saying Africans don't commit crimes, but they will be the ones who will be brought before courts using this kind of universal jurisdiction law. And you can quote me on that, because I'm sure when the figures are done, the majority will be African.
Absolutely, and the last time we talked about it, something just floated into my mind here. What they tell us in political science, that there are two concepts that are so important when you're thinking about international politics and the like: proximity and asymmetry.
Yeah, of course.
So we've talked about this. So that's the weaker nations obviously will be disproportionately
Sure.
more prosecutions of them than other countries in America. So,
Yeah.
you know, or the big powers. You
right.
try to touch them in one end, at one end, then they have a huge whip. So
Absolutely.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
So these asymmetries would sort of
And in
make
many
it look
cases,
so
they actually
unfair.
just ignore international law. The likes of America, Great Britain, they really, and it's funny because a lot of these international courts, you know, the likes of Britain and America drew up the basis on which they operate, and yet they're not even signed up to them. So it's quite ironic. It's good for everybody else, but not for them.
Exactly.
But doesn't it make you wonder, though? So what should be our attitude to these things, knowing inherently
Yeah.
some things will be unfair, and it's perceived to be unfair. So what should be our strategic attitude to this, I wonder?
Yeah, it's a dilemma because for us, some of us welcome it. And I think, you know, when we spoke, I was saying that there's a part of me that welcomes it and there's another part that doesn't. And I think the part of me that welcomes it is that perpetrators who abscond from Africa or from an African country can still be tried and face justice. At the same time, we have to hope that in time we will see people who, because otherwise it gives the impression that only Africans commit crimes against humanity, and that's rubbish.
Yes.
That's not true. You know, everybody does. You know, people across the world from every nation can be guilty of that, and if that is the case, they should face the courts like anybody else. So in time, it might come to, and we wait and see whether there's an instance where somebody faces that sort of. I mean, one of the worst cases that I can remember going back to the Vietnam War. Lieutenant Calley, an American who almost single-handedly massacred a whole village. I mean, eventually he was tried because the case came to light because of the media, but all he got was a slap on the wrist. I think he got like 18 months house arrest.
Really?
Yeah, I'm serious. You can look it up. You can find it on the internet.
Well, you know,
and so that tells you, I mean, somebody who kills I don't know how 30, 40 people in a village.
Mr. Ade, for me, sometimes these laws, I think most of them are not, I mean, fair to certain group of people.
And I think that's what Mr.
Yeah,
Boyd is saying.
yes.
Pretty much, yeah. It's the world we live in. The world is not fair. You know, for example, America can operate a base at Guantanamo. It is physically in Cuba. And yet America doesn't have any relations with Cuba. They can take people there, they can torture them, but they can't take them and torture them on American soil. Who's going to hold America to account? Nobody. There's nobody strong enough, nobody powerful enough to hold them to account. They can do it, they can get away with it. That is the world we live in, and we have to accept it.
Exactly. Interesting. Parents worry about their children's education as Fonyi border village school remain closed. I mean, I think
Yes.
Fonyi, according to IEC, I mean, everything is going well at that area. If they are fit to vote, I mean, schools should open.
Yes,
They
school should
go
open.
back to school.
Yes, but if anybody followed the report that we did on QTV News yesterday, they would have seen that, and Alcalo was saying that one of his schools, the headmaster had returned, but none of the teachers had returned, and so the school could not carry on. You know, that is the reality of it. Yes, it might be safe enough for people to vote. And in fact, our report ended by saying that even though there was calm, things had not yet returned to normal. And until people feel confident enough to go back, certainly the teachers, until they feel that they can go back and that their security is guaranteed, they won't go back. And unfortunately, the children, the pupils, are the ones who are going to suffer unless that situation changes.
And it's much more complex when it comes to schools, isn't it? You've got the teachers, you've got the students. Perhaps in the voting bit, you know, it's just a few hours, and just go vote and go back home. Whereas with school, it's going to be whole day.
Yeah.
So
every day.
Yeah, every day. So one can understand why they're being wary, being cautious, and it will perhaps take time for them to regain that confidence, as it were, to go back to school. This is much more complex. But we know that really there's only a political solution for these
that's the only
things
thing.
in many ways. So I'm not sure.
So let me give you one from mine, from The Voice, and we have it, I think, all of us. Road accidents claim over 40 lives within 1 month. Listen, people, Gambia is on the way to be #1 in the world for road traffic accidents and deaths. That is something we should be ashamed of. We should be ashamed. I don't get the sense that we are. And why do I say this? Because it keeps happening. These numbers just keep going up every blasted day.
I think the last 2 years, when I checked, if I am right, I stand to be corrected. I mean, we were ranked 8, and now I'm hearing we are ranked 4.
No, we've been 4th since 2019.
Yeah.
Since 2019, we've been 4th in the world. 198 countries. And a country of officially 2.1 or 2.5 million people is ranked 4th in the world for road traffic accidents. That figure, 40 people died in 1 month on the road. How many people do you think died of COVID? We must be the only country in the world where more people are dying on our roads than are dying from COVID. The only one in the world. That is a disgrace.
Well, I mean, yesterday the police PRO was here, but I think this matter is a very complex matter. I mean, it involves a whole lot of people, like a whole lot of key players. The general public, the police, NRA, you know, a whole lot of attitudinal change as well. We have very, very crazy attitudes on our traffic.
And particularly if, as was reported 3 weeks ago, a badly maintained truck could fall on 4 people and kill them, and the owner only got fined $5,000 for keeping an unsafe vehicle on the road.
If a truck that killed 13 people, the owner is fined $1,000. Well, I think those people, they tried by fining him 5,000.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what Mr. Mboj thinks about this, but you know, my view is really we're not serious about tackling it, because if we were, as things get worse, you know, talk about that figure. These are WHO figures, by the way. We went from 8th to 4th. That should have been anybody, right up to the president, should have said, I don't want to be president of the country that is moving up the charts that way. I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to declare it an epidemic, a national emergency, and something will be done about it. Trust me, the next time they publish those figures, Gambia will be #1 in the world. 40 in a month, we'll be #1. No two ways about it.
Well, it's a problem.
Absolutely, and each time you hear them come with a policy, it's sort of so punitive. They come up with this, they talk about it, about how they're going to be so punitive on offenders and the like, but you don't see that. So this is it. You talk about attitude, that's a longer term thing. There are things that we need to do immediately. Do we have the right policies, and are we enforcing them?
Yeah.
Well, so you don't get the sense that
if the policies are there and there is no implementation, I mean, that's the problem. And you know, Mr. Ade, I mean, we all know, we all live in this country. We all know we are good at putting pen to paper. Yes. We are good at advocating.
Our shelves are groaning with the weight of laws.
We don't implement, so that's the problem.
We don't, and it's a huge problem. And for me, I get angry about this because this is a huge problem we can solve. You know, there are lots of other things where we have the laws and they're just gathering dust on the shelf. Fine, let them. But this, no, this is a case where we should be implementing the laws. Trust me, when they start jailing people for 20 and 30 years for killing people on the road, like that.
And you know, the surprising thing is, I mean, when you look at, this is not political, during the tenure of former President Yahya Jammeh, I mean, you have few accidents on this route, I mean, the Fonyi route. I mean, I asked the police PRO yesterday, I said, Mr. Njai, I mean, we used to have checkpoints, maybe every 1 kilometer, every kilometer you have a checkpoint. Every kilometer you have a checkpoint. I mean, we have less accidents. Don't you think eradicating all the checkpoints also contributes to this danger?
I don't, and I'll tell you why. Because even when I moved here 3 years ago, there are still lots of places where there were checkpoints. And you guys know, I would come and I would rant on drive time. That, you know, last night I was driving home and I counted 20 vehicles that had no lights at 10 o'clock at night. There another 50 that had one light. I mean, listen, we can't be serious about tackling if those are passing checkpoints. What are these checkpoints checking? What are they checking?
Mr. Ade, how are they going to check? I mean, if the police are accused of corruption?
No, that's an accusation, because for me, I really want to know what they are checking at these checkpoints, because if those vehicles are passing you 10 o'clock at night and they've got no lights, and it's all types of vehicles, some of them are huge trucks, and then first you're aware of them because sometimes there's a blackout and even the lights, street lights are out, and you just hear vroom, something goes past you and you realize it's a big truck with no lights. And yet you think, hang on, it's just been through a checkpoint. Why didn't they stop him? You know, so what are they checking at these checkpoints? Really, that's why I keep saying we're not serious. Those vehicles should be off the road. The ones with one light, the one with no light. Choi, I gave him a lift one day and he thought I was exaggerating. By the time we drove from here, if anybody knows where we are, by the time we drove from here to when I dropped him off by Gambia, he had counted 20 cars that had no lights at 10 o'clock. 20. In that, I haven't gone the whole of Gambia, for God's sake. It's not even 2 miles. Well,
journey. I mean, you just drive my area where vehicle will be driving and brakes will be failing. They'll be managing to stop.
I've seen that, where a car has slammed into another one because the brakes failed.
And with him, I have to ask you, when he said that perhaps with the former regime, there was less accidents, fewer accidents, and so. How do you know? What statistic would you refer to?
Yeah.
Let us be careful with this impression.
It's not
about our impression.
It's not concrete.
It's
It's not based on statistic. It's not concrete. I mean, it's just
a feeling,
a mindset that I have when I ask.
And I'll tell you why that mindset is wrong. Because when I came here during that former regime, and I was on GRTS, and they wanted to criticize the education system because of how poor it was, the performance from 20 students who'd been interviewed. We were told, please don't do that. The president will think you're criticizing him because he has said, education is the most important thing in his agenda. So people suppress these things because they don't want to upset the big man. We don't have those kind of restrictions anymore. That's why we get to know this. So don't say that, for me, that's a kind of false thing. And I'm sure the police, if they looked at the real statistics, they probably had just as many accidents then.
Absolutely. And we're going to have them next soon. The audit report, it has generated a lot of heat. Maybe we can spend a little time on it. Audit report, government awards over 74 million contracts to companies unapproved by GPPA. And we did a story last night in our 8 o'clock news where we had the Minister of Health. He really didn't like the report to the extent, and that is really putting it very lightly. So, and he seemed to be accusing the National Audit Office of something quite strong.
It was very strong. In almost any other country, that would have been headline news in all of these newspapers. Because essentially, he was saying that the Audit Office had an agenda against him and his ministry. He went so far as to accuse them of deliberately ignoring evidence that was supplied to them. He said, when they asked for the evidence, they were told, give us time, we will give you the evidence. And then when they presented it, it was disregarded and not included in the report. And he went so far, he didn't mince his words. He said, they must have had an ulterior motive. That's quite strong, coming from a minister about the Audit Office. And we ended the report by saying, we hope the Audit Office will respond. Because to be accused of that's quite a serious accusation to come from a minister. It's not some guy sitting in a restaurant having a drink. This is the minister at a press conference to the media saying this, that you guys had an ulterior motive, you had an agenda, you had it in for us, and that's why you've done what you did. That's very, very serious. And this is going to rumble on. There's no way this is going to die anytime soon.
And he should have given us more. Ulterior motive, what do you mean by that? What is going on here? Because we remember the minister as well, was it 2020? He came out and complaining in the assembly, complaining about what was going on in the ministry. You know what I mean? So some of us were a bit surprised that he's not really happy with this story. But again, we got an indication, even before this report, we had an indication of what was going on there. You told us.
That's right, because he was called to the assembly and he was asked about how things were going, and he was blunt.
I can remember.
And he was quite critical about, kind of stealing that was going on. So it's quite ironic now that he's saying that nothing of the sort happened. Interesting.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Ade, for joining us. And of course, we'll take a short. Esonyasi did a story on the route licensing in the Gambia. We'll take a look at that video. And after that, we'll be having Omar Sise, President of the Gambia Transport Union, and Mr. Gassama, Ministry of Transport. We'll be right back.
The institution of the new route scheme comes in the wake of recent threats by drivers to protest in demanding an increase in national transport fares. Having had several engagements with stakeholders, the government and the General Transport Union are set to roll out a scheme they believe will help address challenges in the transport sector. Under the new scheme, commercial vehicles plying routes within the Greater Banjul area will now be issued licenses for specific destinations or routes. Explaining the importance and the need to have such a scheme, Esa Drame, Director of Transport at the Ministry of Transport, Works and Infrastructure, and Omar Sise, President of the General Transport Union, said the new scheme was designed to improve the transport sector.
It came as a result of the complaint from the commuters that they have been paying double or triple fares for one route. So this has been a policy of the ministry. It has been in the national transport policy, the first national transport policy, but unfortunately it has not been implemented.
So we revisit their concern and discuss and agree, because we are all Gambians. We all see what is happening as of now. So we discuss, our ministry brings this idea to bring the route lancing in. So but we discuss making piloting system and making like learning process so that we can see what is going to be lapses and so that you can make some adjustment. Because as a union, as a driver, as a professional, I've been seeing this is happening in some countries in West Africa here. And at the same time, I'm part of many international organizations. I know the way they are operating and I see the results at the end of the day.
Though a pilot project for now, this new route scheme will be the first of its kind in the Gambia's transport sector. Given the challenges in the enforcement of policies, they urge both commuters and drivers to comply to help government and stakeholders in the transport sector realize the purpose for creating such a scheme.
When we were engaging the transport union for the increment of the transport fares, we categorically made it clear to them that the interests of the commuters have to be also respected, because we cannot increase the fares whilst the drivers continue charging the commuters double or triple fares. So this scheme will not allow the drivers to do it, because if you register for a particular route, you should take the passengers to that particular destination. For example, if you register for Westfield Brekama, you cannot say that you are stopping at Tabo Koto and then Lamen or Yundum.
The assault drivers, we are here for them. We are representing them. No matter what, we cannot bring something who is going to happen their daily affairs. So we are here for them. This is a learning process. It's a piloting. If we see some lapses, some challenges, we discuss with the government, because it's a committee. We are monitoring. So we discuss and see how to improve that sector. But it's a system who's supposed to protect all of us.
According to the new route scheme, taxi drivers plying routes within the Greater Banjul area will now charge $10, while transport fares from Sarakuna to Brikama will be $23, and Westfield Banjul $12. Meanwhile, officials at the Ministry of Transport and the General Transport Union revealed that the new increment is also owing to the increase.
Welcome back from that break. Interesting piece by Ansumana Esonyasi. And now we are going to deal with a very complex issue. I mean, licensing in the Gambia, route licensing. We've been talking about this for the past weeks, and officials have been busy in and out, with various stakeholders to see this to be implemented. But the difficult thing is whether this is going to be implemented. Gentlemen, you are welcome on this platform.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's good to have you here. Mr. Cisse, you were here yesterday and we discussed a different topic. That's road accidents and, of course, some insurance policies. Can you take us through this? How far have you gone when it comes to this route licensing?
Thank you. This route license was launched on the 20th of May 2022, as a pilot program with some critical role within the Greater Banjul and West Coast. So drivers started registering, and at the same time the committee is monitoring because we receive a lot of concern or opinions from both passengers and drivers how to have a good transport sector in Gambia. So in the same time, we also as a committee we are at the grounds, roads, garages to make some adjustments because this is a trial period. We want to introduce it, but we want to people to understand what we are advocating. For that being the case, we make it pilot so that we also can learn from it, because we understand it's happening in some countries, but maybe the background of the countries are different. So after the final recommendation, we can bring it as a law. But right now the committee is monitoring. I'm part of the committee. We are receiving concerns from people, both the commission and drivers, the way they feel you can have a winning situation in the transport sector.
Okay, Mr. Mboj, you had that?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, this zoning, this is a form of zoning,
Yeah.
isn't it? And the like. So what really is the objective? What do you think? And who introduced it? I would have thought that it was the ministry, perhaps in collaboration with the teachers, with the transport union, because you're there really for the interest of with the transport, drivers and that sort of thing. So what's the objective of the zoning really?
The objective is to have the destinations, because like the current transport system, especially the Greater Banjul area, the vehicle didn't have any destination. It's affecting the passengers a lot. Like for example, let me take Brikama as an example. People going to Brikama, they will stood at the Westfield calling Tatikunda, Tabo Koto, but they are finding it's Brikama. So just to encourage passengers to pay tripling or doubling fares. So we want to stop that behaviors. That's why any vehicle need to have a final destination. From point A, you're supposed to stop point B. But as of now, they don't have destination. So this is the main objective we want to achieve, so that passengers also have to have vehicle to their final destination. For example, if you are going to Brikama, if you see people, this vehicle is going to Brikama directly. So whether asking apprentice or driver, where are you going? The identification is going to be in vehicle to be know this vehicle is supposed to be in Brikama or Costa Road. So that's the we want to achieve from it, and at the same time it's a zoning. Like we all know we have lack of garage, but still vehicles are patrolling, they are moving. So we want to try to create a terminal also. Like for example, if you depart from here is your landing point. So that the same day is going to help if you want to send somebody like who is not familiar with the environment. He will choose the vehicle you want to so somebody who is going to collect that gift or whatsoever, he will wait for that particular point and receive what he was supposed to receive. At the same time, the committee is working to create that stopping and dropping so that we can have essential transport system in the country. These are old plans, but still, as I said before, it's a pilot. But I know as soon as possible, we're going to conclude our findings.
Can I just have one more follow-up?
Yes.
How would you respond to this? That we have reached this level of chaos because we've not been applying the rules, the laws. Maybe even I would invite the views of the representative from the Ministry of Transport. We've not been applying the rules. So here, adding an extra layer of bureaucracy when you don't implement, it's as good as you don't even have it.
Yeah, I know we are know the challenges, but at the end of the conclusion, we come to the recommendation and the laws. ASANA is not a law. It's just a trial period. So we are monitoring. We are representing drivers, but we want to have a better transport system. By the end of the day, if it's come to a law, enforcement supposed to, the police are part of the team. That committee is carried by the Minister of Interior himself. So I think end of the day, if we have a better understanding about the issue, I think it's not going to be very compulsory.
Okay, I mean,
and perhaps
yes. Yes, Mr. Kazama.
Yes.
Yes. What do you have to at least add on that?
With regards to the objective, like Mr. Mboj asked Omar, the main objective of this route licensing is to improve efficiency and also to reduce cost, because like he made mention of drivers of charging double fares or triple fares, and also this short tripping, like he cited an example, like a driver from Westfield flying to Brikama will say Latrikunda Tabokoto, then from Latrikunda we'll go to Tabokoto, then from Tabokoto we'll go to Lamin, then from Lamin we'll go to Busumbala Farato. So these are some of the things that are very challenging, and the general public, you know, is not comfortable with it. People are talking about it everywhere. So to ease that burden on the general public, these were some of the reasons why this route licensing came into being. Yes. And then what was your other question?
The second point was, we've reached this level of chaos because we've not been applying the rules that are already there.
Yeah.
So that is why. So here, when you add another layer of bureaucracy, and there is this suspicion, we've got this track record of not applying them, that it's as good as not even having these policies in place.
Yeah. You know, we can have the regulations in place. That is one aspect. And then the other aspect would be the implementation and the enforcement. It is true that we have, you know, inadequate, if I may put it that way, inadequate regulations in place, but the enforcement also is inadequate. So these are some of the challenges, but I think with time we will overcome those things. Yes.
So who is to be blamed when it comes to enforcing certain things in this country? I mean, when you talk about certain people, they'll point fingers to other people. And when you talk to those people, they'll point fingers to lack of resources. So what is our problem? What is really the matter in this country?
I think, one, people need to be committed. And then people also should have the love of the country at heart. Like, that does not, it's not only limited to the authorities in place. Even the driver who is driving on our roads, they have some form of, they have some level of responsibility on our roads. So, but at some point, it's also attitudinal, you know, issue, because in as much as we have limited resources in the country, but with good attitude, some of the things that are happening on our roads should not be happening as I am speaking to you. So the issue of blame game, no, this particular institution are not doing their work. It is complementary, you know, and then it's multi-sectoral. Not only one institution can do it alone. So most of these issues that we are facing on our roads today, we all have a stake in it, be it the ministry, be it National Roads Authority, be it the police, the transport union, and the imam there, the students out there. Everybody has a stake in this.
Mr. Sise, I'll come back to you. I mean, I don't have a problem, I mean, maybe increasing the fare. If I know I'm going to Brikama, for example, you are charging $10 for normal car. I mean, okay, I will go to Brikama direct. I don't mind you increasing the fare to $15, for example, so that I can go straight to Brikama. But what is more important, I think this route licensing in the Gambia is very important. If you follow it well, it will really impact. It will really be successful. That's what I believe. And when people heard about this, I mean, some of them were celebrating.
Yeah, during discussion, we are together on this. I think I'm part of the committee who are trying to enlarge the general public, particularly the drivers, because I understand most of them having fear, because this is a new, scheme. They don't have much understanding. But like people like in 16 years in transports as a driver, when traveling many West African countries, and at the same time as president of the union, part of the many international organizations. So we feel this is very good. But I understand my people having fear. So right now we are engaging them about the issue. And them also, some people have made some concern or some good opinions, so that the final day we can have a good loss. We are in support of it because we need to have a better transport system. Because the way things are going, it's not good for all of us, because we are all commuters. We are all facing the same challenges. But to sensitize them. That's most important here. We are doing so. So I think end of the, and during the trial period, we also learn a lot through the process, because we don't know all of them. But some people also bring their opinion on board, guide us. We think if you do this, end of the day, you can have this. So finally, we want to combine all those things. I have a good regulation. And end of the matters, we have it, because truly speaking, the committee is very committed on this. Both day and night, we are in the traffic, we are in the garage, we are seeing what is happening. Every day we are gathering those factors. So end of the day, so we can have a good loss, so that the driver can have a good, transport system. But the same passenger also can have a, official transport sector.
Well, I think transportation is one of the most important.
Just one more, perhaps.
Yes.
How are you preparing your members? What are you doing for them? Training, how do you know?
Very important.
Absolutely, for this. Because we think that, of course, the Gambia Transport Union, by its very nature, you're there to, take care of the interests of your members, isn't it?
Yeah.
That sort of thing. But there's a wider problem here, and we see it every time on our roads. There's a certain unruliness. People are impatient, almost as if they don't even understand what the rules are. It's not simply with transport, commercial vehicles, and even private vehicles, but the sort of chaos we see. How much are you doing to help mitigate the worst effects of this?
I think that's why if I'll be in QTV, so that the general public can hear me very loud and clear. We have a problem in country because the way transport is going, many people didn't understand what is in transport in general, particularly drivers. So as a union level, we want to build their capacities, engaging them, get closer to them so that they will understand. As I said before, I'm a driver for past 16 years. So I know the challenges, but we want to, closer to them so they'll understand what is the transport in general, because transport is the wheel of the economic. So if that sector is not regulated, so then maybe we have a problem in country. And that is happening right now. So that's why every time we have been advocating, engage them. Even some authorities, we are engaging them. So sometimes people think, we are harsh on. No, we want to put things accordingly, so that everybody have a better transportation system in this country. But as of now, what is happening is, I think most of the time, because we create so many platforms, we have the regional committees, we have the garage committees, so we are building those people their capacities. If this is a situation, end of the day, this is a multi-sectoral sector, so every individual has an interest. So end of the day, what is the interest of the nation? So in that are the biggest whole. So that's why in this subject, maybe some of my members, I'm agree with them on this, but I've been telling them, this is not you, this is not me, this is Gambia. So we will try, no matter what, your interest will be protected, but somebody also have interest. So it's going to be a winning situation, but it's very challengeable because these unions is here less than 3 years now. So this problem I have over 20 years now. You cannot come on one day and change it. But we are trying our level best to engage them. That's why for me, I work in 24 hours. 3 years, I don't have still even 1 week leave. I work 24 hours with my executive. Yesterday from here, I went up to Kalaji and come back. Today morning I'm here. Now after here, I'll go for a but just to reach them, because
I can imagine the struggle that he's going through as president of the transport.
I feel it's my responsibility. I'm gonna be in office. People are complaining. Sometimes, if you are leading people, most of people don't understand. They are not being to school and so on and so forth. You need to bring very close to them so they understand what you want to achieve. Because transport is very important here. Because we are all affected. Commuters have been complaining, drivers have been complaining, so which is it now? So I think we need to understand each other. We work together as a family. Before, we and ministry, we have a little bit misunderstanding, but now we see we are all the same, we are all looking for the same agenda. So what must let's collaborate together and see what we can do for the government people.
What is the ministry doing to make it convenient for drivers as well? I mean, maybe collaboration with some of your stakeholders, maybe the National Road Authority and other people that are responsible for making our roads easy to use. Sometimes you find it very inconvenient. Drivers also find it very difficult. As much as we blame drivers a lot, but also we need to make it very convenient for them.
When you said what is the ministry doing to make things convenient for the drivers, that is so why, in what aspect?
Yes, yes. I just want to know on the roads.
On the roads, yes. the ministry has to do with policies and programs and ideas. And in doing that, there should be consultation, and of course there is consultation between stakeholders.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then the issue of this route licensing, it came as a result of that, through consultation. The consumers are also are represented there, because we have the Consumer Protection Consortium as a member to that committee, the Transport Union, the Ministry of Interior, of course the police are under the Ministry of Interior. You have Ministry of Justice and other relevant institutions. So what the ministry can do, or what the ministry is doing, is to come up with ideas and programs, and then we bring it on the table. Stakeholders will come and see, and then we roll it out. That's what we are doing.
That's it. Let me just come in here.
Okay.
That's exactly what should expect. I mean, you are a ministry, but you've talked about the multidimensional, you call it multi-sectoral,
yes,
nature of this problem. So yes, you have different stakeholders, but my question will be, who takes the lead? In anything where I have a lot of people,
yes,
or a lot of input from different factions,
yes,
there must be a leader coordinating everything. There must be a body that takes the lead. I would have thought that it will be the ministry.
Absolutely true. The ministry is there to coordinate these activities. Let me give you an example of that. In terms of road safety, the ministry coordinates that. And then this road licensing also, the ministry, the two ministries, Ministry of Interior and the Ministry of Transport, are the ones coordinating this road licensing. Yes.
Yes, but don't you see that the fact that today, when you look at the rankings, we are awful, our record is terrible, fourth in the world, you've not been doing your job well. How would you respond to that?
That is an estimate. the ranking in fourth is an estimate.
So what does that mean, though? What does it mean?
It is estimated by WHO.
Yes, but this is raising a red flag.
Yes, this is
already a red flag.
Yes, it is rising a red flag. But there are factors that are responsible. It's not, perhaps the ministry might be there to lead, to coordinate, and other institutions are lagging behind. So, I mentioned this
blame game.
Is that what is going on?
It's not a blame game.
This is what I was talking about.
No, it's not a blame game. What I'm saying could be, as I said earlier, it is multi-sectoral. Not one institution can do it alone. So this is why, if we have good policies in place and we don't implement them to ladder, nothing will change. The status quo will remain. So we all have to come and sit on the table, we shake hands, and then we make sure, put all hands on deck, and then work together as a team to achieve what we want to achieve. But if we say, okay, the ministry is the lead agency, so ministry should do this. Yes, the ministry should lead and coordinate. And then in doing that, all stakeholders are equally important and relevant in this.
Yes, but you've said that maybe some stakeholders are not really pulling their weight.
I'm saying perhaps.
Perhaps, yes, you're hypothesizing.
I said perhaps.
What actually do you think? Where are the bottlenecks? How come we've got laws we're trying to implement, but yet everybody talks about the chaos, the accidents, it's unbelievable. Where do we think the problems are?
This is the question to ask. Perhaps we should go back to the drawing board. We should go back to the table and then see what the problems are. Especially when it comes to these road traffic crashes, we have serious problems. We have the human factor there.
Yes.
We have the engineering factor there, and we have some other factors there.
Well, let's get it from your perspective.
From my point of view is the government have been neglected on the transport matters since quite a long time. That's the challenges. In those days also, we don't have the political will on this. Because let me give you, if you are talking about the road safety here, this the Motor Traffic Act was here since colonial days, up to now over 56 years old. I think that is a big challenge because only law can govern people. Without no law, we are facing these type of things. That's why, as a union level, we are calling to the government and say, let's amend those laws to be up to the standard now. And number two, in this road accidents, for me, we have a human factor. We have a road network and policies matters here, because let me give you a little example here. We are talking about the drivers, but drivers need to be qualified before driving on the road, But in Gambia here, everybody can have a driver license easily. So if that is the case, what is going to happen next? Today, if you allow me to sit in your control room, I'll be manning your control room. By the end of the day, you can have a good images because I'm not qualified to do that. That is a challenge. But number two, government also make another big mistakes to privatize licensing on the private sector. Like today, the private company is the company who is issuing a driver license to the government people. Somebody who is invest, employ, end of the day expect profit. This license connecting life of the people. Some license didn't go on by government. It's just a company. Yes. Invest, employ, end of the expect profit.
Thank you, Mr. Cisse. I mean, we've come to the end of the program. We wanted us to talk about the insurance policy. We've seen you on the newspaper today, talking about the police and the insurance policy. But, I mean, we'll invite you again on another program.
No problem.
Yeah, so that we can elaborate. Mr. Mboy, that's all we have on this program today. Until we come here again tomorrow, bye for now.